Welcome to the Writing Gals. I'm so happy you're here with us. Tonight we have a special guest. Christina Dymock is here with us, and I'm so excited to hear her talk about traditional publishing and indie publishing and the differences between the two. But first, before we go into that, we're going to catch you up on what's been going on with everybody. So we'll go ahead and start with Judy. What have you been doing, Judy? Do you have anything new going on?
Well, I've been working on my Ridgewater High third book still, but I am getting so close to the end. I'm hoping that I can finish it in just the next few days, which is exciting. And if I can do that, then it'll probably be my fastest book that I've written so far, because it's actually been critiqued too along the way. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. Amy, what you got going on?
Well, I just finished edits on Marrying a Billionaire. So that's with my editor right now, and it should be released next week. And I think it's my best book ever, personally, but I just love it so much because she's pregnant in the book, and it's just amazing. It's like all the romantic things I ever wanted to have happen, I shoved into this book. So that will be released next week. And then I am 24,000 words into my first contemporary YA romance. Rule number 1, you can't date the coach's daughter. And that's the one I got to have my models out to take pictures for. And I will have a cover reveal pretty soon about which one I picked. And yeah, that's about it. That's all I'm doing.
Wonderful.
What are you doing, Victorine?
Oh, I'm just working on my next book. I'm actually right now writing a reader magnet for subscribers for my newsletter. It's a story about a girl who's in love with her sister's fiance. Oops. And she's having to help plan the wedding. So that creates a little bit of conflict there. So I'm really excited about that one. And we have Christina joining us today. Christina, will you tell us what you're writing right now?
Sure. I just put out my baseball book, which is Caught Looking. And it's the second one in my Dating Mr. Baseball series that came out on Tuesday. And I have 72,000 words into my next destination billionaire. It's my Billionaire Marriage Brokers book, which I have taken about a year off from writing that series, and I'm going back to it now. And I'm really excited about this one because it's an arranged marriage. It's called The Corporate Groom, and I'm going to put that out hopefully next month.
Oh, fantastic. I love that series. That's one of my favorites of yours. So awesome. I'm so excited you're writing that. All right. Well, we'll jump right in here, and I will introduce Christina. Christina Dymock, and she also goes by Lucy name fiction, including the Billionaire Marriage Broker series, the Lime Peak Ranch Family Drama series, and the Dating Mr. Baseball series. She's contributed to the Snow Valley and Echo Ridge anthologies and has 8 cookbooks, including the Healthy Family Slow Cooker Cookbook, winner of the Best of State for Nonfiction Award. I am so excited to have you on the show tonight, Christina. I'm going to just start out and jump right into these questions. Okay. So Jocelyn from our Facebook group would like to know about your publishing journey. Did you traditionally publish first, or did you indie publish first? And how did all that happen?
I started out traditionally publishing in magazines and newspaper articles. And I had a short romantic fiction story published in Women's World magazine. That was my first big one that went out. And then I was doing that for quite a while and thought, I really just want to write a book. I want to sink my teeth into something a little meatier. So I started writing historical fiction. And I wrote 4 books in that, and shopped them around, looked for an agent, tried to find a publisher, and then YA was like exploding. And so I thought, well, I'll try and write a YA book. And so I wrote a fairy godmother series where it's always the fairy godmother, never the princess, and all about her troubles of trying to get these happy ever afters for girls and the trouble that the girls caused in the meantime, and sometimes the handsome prince. And then I just really thought to myself, what do I want to write? And what can I write that's going to make money? Because the market had gone down, and my husband works in home building, and I was waitressing nights just so that I had some income coming in. And I thought I need to write so that I can make money. So I took a look at the big picture, and 50% of all book sales are in the romance genre. It doesn't matter. And that's everything. That's nonfiction, fiction, everything. And I said, great, so romance. And then I said, what part of the romance genre do I want to write in? Do I want to do suspense or, historical, or what was it? And I had always gravitated towards reading contemporary romances. In fact, I was laughing the other day because you guys mentioned Sweet Valley High, and I was like a huge fan of Sweet Valley High.
Yes.
And so, I thought, okay, I'll go contemporary romance, and I wanted to write sweet. So that's how I started writing in the sweet romance genre. And I wrote my first book, which was Never to Be Seen Again. And I just tucked that one away. And then I wrote The Academic Bride. And indie publishing was starting to go big. And I thought, I need to help support my family like right now. I can't wait the 2 or 3 years that it's going to take for this book to go out. And so I published it myself, and it's then I just kept publishing in that series, and about the 4th book in the series, it just took off and went like crazy. So, and then while I was waitressing, I was writing cookbooks and publishing those and putting those out, and that was going really well. And then I did a couple contemporary romances for that publishing house. And then when Billionaire Marriage Brokers took off, I just kind of stuck with the indie publishing because it was making me more money. So that's my journey, and I've just continued to write and continued to publish, and it's been a lot of fun.
Can I ask you a question?
Wonderful.
Fire away.
So as someone who's been more experienced, obviously I only just started writing in August of last year. How long did it take for you to get like a baseline income where you're like, I can depend on X amount a month? And then if I release a book, I can depend on, that extra amount. But because you, it seems like you're using your income as a sustainable income for your family. So that it would be a really important aspect of indie publishing. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, how many books and how long did that take?
So what I did is, when I started making more money writing than I was waitressing, that's when I switched, and I quit the waitressing and put all of my time into the writing. And so I put out The Academic Bride in March of 2015, and The Country Bride is the one that really just took off, and it was October of 2015, and it just kind of went nuts. And then I watched my numbers for 2 to 3 months just to make sure that I could keep them there before I said goodbye to my other job. And I released another couple books in that series, and then started more series and the Snow Valley stuff. And it just kept growing. And I thought, I can't do everything. I can't do the waitressing and spend that many hours that week doing that and be mom and write. And so something had to go, and it was the waitressing. So it was at that point. So it was like March to October before the series took off. And that was 4 books. I did 4 books out in that series before it started going really well.
Fantastic. Wonderful. What's the difference in the process of traditional publishing versus indie publishing?
So with traditional publishing, for me, I kind of set my indie publishing up the same way and follow the same pattern. You submit your manuscript. You have to write the book, and then you submit the manuscript. If you're going to go traditional and you want to get an agent to do one of the bigger houses to try and submit to them, then you would submit to agents and find an agent. If you can find a smaller house that you want to publish with, they will take unagented manuscripts. And so you can submit directly to them, which is what I had done. And then they have it, and you just kind of wait until they decide if they want to publish it or not. And it can take between 2 weeks and 3 to 6 months. Sometimes I've heard of people it taking even a year or more before they hear back, in either way, a positive or negative. And then you go and you have a round of edits. They have it for about 6 months for editing, and then you get it for about 3 months. And then they get it for another 6 months for editing, and then you get another look at it, and it's really quick. So this should just be kind of tweaking little things at that point. And then it goes through proofreading, and then it goes to press, and then it goes publish. And so that's traditional. And so my schedule is I write the book, and then I do a really big personal read through edit, and then I send it to my editor. She does her thing, I get it back, I do my thing. It takes her a week, it takes me a week, and then it goes to my proofreader for a week, and then it comes back to me, and I can go through the changes and I can publish. So the biggest difference, I think, between the two is the amount of time that it takes. With the traditional publishing, you can be anywhere from 1.5 to 5 years before you see your book from start to finish. And in indie publishing, I'm usually about 6 to 8 week turnaround time. If I can write it in a month and then get it edited over the next month. So
such a huge difference.
It is huge. It is a big difference. And then with the royalties, which I should probably touch on just a little bit, is traditional publishing, there's a 7-month lag between when you sell a book and when you get paid for that book. And then in indie publishing, it's a 3-month lag. Well, 2 to 3. And so, you're getting paid a whole lot quicker for things if you're going indie than you do if you are going traditional. But you don't get a signing bonus if you're an indie. And so, you can get a nice little signing bonus to give you the little bump to keep going if you're traditional, but you don't get that if you're indie. So
what do you do in terms of advertising for either book? Because I know people think, oh, I'll traditionally publish and I won't have to do anything. And then they find out, no, you need to sell your own book. So do you do anything different? Do you focus more on your indie published stuff and less on yourself or your traditionally published, or talk about that?
With the traditionally published, so the PR representative at the publishing house will set up radio interviews, television interviews. I've done spots because they were cookbooks. I would do cooking spots on local television and things like that. Morning shows, that kind of stuff. That was really fun. And gave me a lot of street cred with my kids because I thought it was great that I could make it onto TV. And they'll also set up book signings at your local Costco's and, Barnes and Nobles and things like that. They want you to push your print books. They want you to sell your print books. And those are the kind of things they will do for you. What they won't do for you is any type of online, if you've seen those book ads or, anything like BookBub or things like that. They won't set those kinds of things up. If you want those, you as an author have to pay for them and then arrange with your publisher to discount the book for something like that, which they're really easy to work with on those. I found if I wanted to pay for the advertising, they would discount the book. And then when I added it up, I made like 17 cents or something. And thought, why did I spend so much time on that? But you got to try something, And so, but when you're indie, a lot of your marketing is online marketing. And so you're doing AMS ads or Facebook ads, or, you're signing up with BookBub or Bargain Bookski or any of those things. And you're doing all of that yourself. But the thing that is the same on both of them is if your book bombs, you take the blame. So even if you're signed with one of the big houses, if your books don't sell, they don't sign you a new contract. And so they put it on you, even though it may not be anything. Your book might be completely wonderful and amazing, and they slapped a cover on it that had nothing to do with your storyline, and you have no say in that. And so then it doesn't sell. And, but you get the blame for it because you're the author. So on both sides of the coin, indie author, if your book bombs, it's on you too. So either way, you're accepting the responsibility for the success of that book.
That's so true. So that leads right into the next question, which is responsibility in as an author from a traditional publishing standpoint versus from an indie standpoint.
Okay, say that first part of that again. I'm sorry, you were kind of.
What's your author responsibilities? What do you need to do?
Okay, so I think one of the things that you have to remember is that your first responsibility is to write the best book you possibly can. Whether you're writing it for a traditional publisher or for yourself, it's for yourself. Your name is going on that book. So write the very best book you possibly can. And then when you get edits back, swallow all of your pride. I used to read them and then I would close the whole document and walk away And then the next day I could come back and actually look at them without having my feelings hurt. But thankfully I'm past that stage now, so I can just read through things and go. Don't take it personal anymore. But
Did she disappear for you guys?
She disappeared for me. I wasn't sure if it was just me or if it was her.
Oh,
Oh no, we lost you, Christina. Maybe try logging off and logging back in.
we love technology, don't we?
Oh, definitely.
So many internets all needing to work at the same time.
Oh,
And
yes.
sometimes it doesn't work that way.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, mine was flickering, and I'm like, my computer's like recording this whole thing. Hopefully it doesn't.
Oh no, don't die, Judy. We'd all die.
Oh yeah, we depend on you. You're our
I know.
lifeblood.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, I think she's back on. Yay.
We were so riveted with what she said. We were
I
like,
know.
I know.
don't stop talking. Maybe.
All right. Maybe she's on.
Her picture's there, though,
Quick.
with her cookbooks.
Yay.
That's so amazing. I like people who are talented like that, can write in multiple genres. My cookbook would be very depressing. It would be how to throw together random items in your refrigerator and make a meal.
Mine phone numbers.
Yes, that's amazing. You're back.
Yay.
sorry, I don't know what happened. That was really weird.
My internet.
Well, you know, the
is funny
internet.
too today, so it's just going around, I think.
There's a bug. Please don't have a bug on my computer. So, okay.
All right. I think we were talking about, let's see, different responsibilities you have for traditional publishing versus indie publishing.
Okay, so then we talked about writing the best book you can. Did you catch that part or did it cut out before then? Okay. So then with traditional publishing, they are going to cover your cover. They're going to take care of that. They're going to take care of all the editing, the proofreading, the distribution for e-copy, print, and possibly audiobook, and then your marketing. And then what you're going to have to do when you self-publish is all of those things. You're going to have to do your own cover. You're going to have to find an editor. You're going to have to find a proofreader. And you're going to have to distribute. You're going to have to do all of that. So that's on, it all becomes on you. I feel like I'm really dark. Is that better?
Perfect. That is better.
Okay.
Great. Yes, that's exactly right. And what are the benefits of traditional publishing and benefits of indie publishing?
Okay, so with traditional publishing, you have more time to write because you're not trying to do everything else that they're going to do. So you can just focus on writing instead of, and perfecting your craft and working on that instead of worrying about learning how to do an AMS ad or looking at a cover and saying, does this look professional or is it really not? Is it in my market? Is it not in my market? They do all that research. There's a little bit of a higher prestige that comes from traditional publishing still, which is kind of funny to me considering how successful indie authors have been. I think that that's just kind of, you know, you need to look at the fact that they can accomplish so very much in such a little amount of time. And I think that's amazing. And so, but there is a little bit of a higher prestige. People can, you say, I wrote a book and people are like, oh, who'd you publish with? And then you have, oh, Penguin or whatever. And it works, you know? And so there's this, some people, that is their motivation for writing. They want to be recognized as a writer. And so that's traditional publishing is good for them for that. I think there's less stress involved with traditional publishing because there's a lot that's on their shoulders that you don't have to deal with. And there's a little bit more, yay, you wrote a book. Like there's a whole team of people that are excited for you that you wrote a book and they tell you how excited they are and they send you emails about it and they do all, you know, and it's this constant feeding of, hey, this is great. You've done something wonderful. We all love it. It looks beautiful, you know, and you just beam and smile and get all of these kudos. And then the other thing is you have a team to work with you, which is just kind of a given. The minute that you sign a contract, you automatically have a team. You don't have to build that team yourself. And then they have connections that you don't. And I didn't really think about this one until just about the last couple of weeks. I watched a documentary on Nora Roberts and all that she has done, and the amount of, they, you know, talk about how much I think she makes $6 million a year or something, because she has movie deals and she has been translated into 25 different languages, and she's, you know, got all of these other things. And those are things that a publisher can do for you that would take time for you to do. I think, yeah, could I shop a book to a studio? Yes, I could. I could go out and I could make that happen. But what would I be giving up in the meantime? And how could I prove that that was going to pay off in the long run? So they can, that's a lot of the pros of traditional publishing. The cons are that you don't have as much control. If they give you a cover you don't like, there's very little you can do to get it changed. You sign away rights for your audio, your movie rights, everything. They get it all. Usually, unless you can get somebody good to negotiate that for you. You get less percentage in royalties. I think the best I got was 17% off the cover price. And then you have to build, you know, and then a con for traditional publishing as well is that the time that it takes, like that it's 3 to 5 years to see your book from start to finish, which for some people, that's the rate they want to work at and they're fine with it. It's not a problem. But for me, I found that I was writing faster than my publisher could put out. And what am I going to do with all of these stories? They're not stopping just because my publisher hasn't given me a contract. I need to find a place for all of this. And so that was something that I needed, you know, if you're writing stories faster than they're publishing them, then go ahead and start putting them out yourself. So I like being hybrid. In fact, I've been thinking about moving to and submitting a book to a traditional publisher again, or a series idea to a traditional publisher again, because I would like to be where Nora Roberts is one day and be making that kind of money and have that, you know, and see my books made into films and things like that. That's, you know, a dream that we all have, is to be able to say, yeah, that's my book on the big screen there. So
Totally.
yeah, and it's not just in my living room screen, it's a big screen.
Do you feel that because you have experience now, and you have like a track record that you could pitch to a traditional publishing house, do you feel like you would get a better chance of getting a contract? Or,
you know what, I was thinking about that the other day, because when I first started, I didn't have a lot to offer. I didn't have a newsletter list. I didn't have a following. I didn't have the readership that I have now. And so I think that I could go to them and say, hey, look, this is what my books rank when I release them. This is how many sales I have every time I release a book. And, you know, I want to team up and I would like to work with you guys and do a series. And I think that they would be much more likely to look at me and take me seriously now than they would have been had I tried it 5 years ago, before I'd gotten, you know, 40 books out. And
so would you work? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Judy.
I was just going to say, do you worry that they would try to kind of control what other kinds of books you could publish if they did sign you? Do you think they would try to put things in a contract to stop you from doing self-publishing? Or
they could try. Okay. You know, it would be, they could try, but for me, I'm at a point that, and you girls are probably there too, that if they said, well, you have to do X, Y, or Z, or you have to give us this rights, or you can't write this, I could say, that's okay, I'll just put it out myself. And it's no skin off my back. I feel like I hold more of the cards now than I ever did before. And I can say, that's okay, I know my readers will love this series, so I'll just put the series out and my readers will love it. And so
then they'll come back with a better contract. Like, oh, never mind, we want you.
Sorry, you were kidding. We really like that. Yeah.
Well, I was listening to a podcast by Hugh Howey, and he said that same thing. He was in a negotiation with Penguin, I think, or it was Random House. It was one of those two, and they were like, he was like, yeah, I don't, you know, he's totally playing it fast and loose, didn't really care. You know, it was how I turned down a 7-figure deal or something like that. And the guy was like, but don't you think it's amazing? You're going to be able to, you know, have Random House on your book. And he's like, no, you're going to have Hugh Howey on your book. And that's way more important than Random House. And that's what's going to sell the book, not random house. That's not going to sell it. And I was like, putting the power back in the author's hands, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And so my question was, would you try and find an agent then and then find a publishing house, or would you approach the publishing house?
It would depend on the series, because there are publishing houses, like I know Harlequin Heartwarming does not takes non-agented books, and we had Snow Valley, the Snow Valley series. We had it under consideration with a production house. They wanted to make it into a made-for-TV or like Netflix series thing, and so I have a entertainment lawyer that I've worked with before, and instead of using an agent, I could use her, and she would be able to do contracts and things. And if anybody ever gets a movie deal and needs one, just let me know and I'll hook you up with her. She's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's fantastic. But so that's, I think there's ways. I don't know. I feel like I could just make it happen, kind of feel it out and see what I needed to do. And then, if you do get an offer and you feel like you want an agent to look over it, it's so much easier to get an agent if you call and say, hey, I have this contract on my desk from whoever, and do you mind representing me and looking at it? And they're like, oh, you mean I don't have to shop it around and I don't have to try and find them for you, and you've already done all of my work except for reading this contract? Yeah, I think I can make that happen. So it's easier to find an agent when you have, a contract. So like I said, I think it would just be something that I would have to fill out and see how it was working and if it was going to work out, and if it was the right fit. And if it wasn't, if there was something that was in the contract that I wasn't comfortable with, then I could pull it and I'd be fine.
Perfect. And that leads exactly into the next question. Kelsey wants to know, how do you decide which way you'd like to publish? Does genre play a role in this?
Genre does. There are some genres that sell better from traditional publishing houses than through indie, but I think that's changing. Either way, you're going to have to pay your dues. It seems like everybody thinks, oh, I'll just write a book and I'll become totally rich on Amazon and it'll be no big deal. And it's not like that. You have to put in the time to learn your craft, and you have to fail a couple times, and you have to put out books that nobody wants to read and then pull those off the shelf and put out ones that are better. And you just have to go through all of that and pay your dues. And if you're in traditional publishing, there's still a ladder to climb. You aren't handed contracts just because your one contract went okay. You still have to scratch and claw for that next contract, just like an indie publisher has to scratch and claw for their ranking on Amazon. It's always there. So it's not a get rich quick thing in any way, or in either way. What I think plays the most part in it is what you're looking for as an author and what feeds you. If you don't want to deal with cover and you don't want to deal with any of those decisions and you just want to write, then go traditional. If you want to have control over everything, then go indie, knowing that your personal preferences may not sell books. That's all kind of a learning curve that you have to have. So I would say it's not so much genre as it is who you are as a person and what you want out of it. And that would be what the decision factor would be.
Perfect.
So, but there are new businesses that are emerging. If you wanted to try writing in the sweet romance genre, there's a company that hires ghostwriters, and they'll pay you to ghostwrite basically your first book. It's not a lot of money, but nobody's first book is ever worth a lot of money. So they pay you to do that. And then there's other companies that are like hybrid publishers, and they will publish just ebooks and you retain all the rights to everything else. So there's a lot of different options out there. You just need to look and see what feels like it fits right with you.
Perfect. So what should your expectations be realistically for publishing indie or publishing traditionally? What should you expect?
Expect to have to do marketing in either way, in either path, because again, it's on you whether it fails or does good. And so plan to market, plan to go to conferences and talk to people about your book, and plan to be a part of those things. And then if you're traditional, you can expect that your editors are going to take really good care of your book. This is what they do for a living, and they take it very seriously. And so you can expect that they have had experience editing, and that you can count on the fact that they've, either gone to college for this, or, they've had X number of years in the field. And so you've got that behind you, which is kind of nice. And then they're really professional. They don't play games, at least the ones that I've dealt with. I'm sure there's some horror stories out there. But they're very professional, and they want what's best for your book. But you can also expect that your book is not always going to be top priority. I had one of my cookbooks win the award for Best of State. I called my publisher and I was so excited, and I said, can we get some stickers made just to put on the front of the book with the Best of State logo on it? And I was so excited. And they were just like, it's been out for like 6 months, and we don't know if that would help sell any more books. And I was going, are you kidding me? I just won an award. And the book was an award. And they were just not impressed at all. And I thought, they were on to the next project already, and I was still working on the marketing this book. And so some expectations in indie is that you're going to put in some long hours trying to learn a whole new world for yourself. I love it. You guys are like nodding like zombies, like, yep. But you can also expect in indie that the indie atmosphere is very welcoming. And we're not all like, you may think authors are all like in their caves and they're hiding and they're like, my precious ideas and things like that. But they're not. They're amazing. They're willing to talk to you about how to make your book a success, and what they found that works and what works for them, and what they heard from this person, and the latest thing they heard about the Amazon algorithm and how that plays into something. And, they're just super excited to talk about what they're doing. And they're very friendly and they're very open. And so you can expect to find that there. And you can find a community of friends that you would have no idea existed before. And I'm shocked when I talk to people how close some of them have lived. Like Rochelle Christensen and I lived within 10 minutes of each other for 4 years before we met at a writers' conference, and then found out where we lived. And we're like, are you kidding? And then she moved to like Idaho or something, and I don't know where she is. But, but it was like instant friendship at the writers' conference. And then we had been, within 10 minutes of each other for a long, long time. So it's amazing what this bond of writing can bring into your life.
That's great. All right. The next question is, you write under a pen name and your real name. So when should a person consider writing under a pen name instead of their real name?
So the general understanding is if you're going to switch genres, you're going to want to pick up a pen name. And the reasoning behind this, which I heard, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, which I was really glad that I'd picked a pen name to do sweet romance under when I heard this, was that Amazon will classify authors under their name as a certain type of author. So Christina Dymock is classified as a nonfiction cookbook writer. And if Christina Dymock were all of a sudden to put out a sweet romance, Amazon wouldn't know what to do with that because it's not in my regular genre. So by starting a new pen name, you start that pen name out in sweet romance, and then Amazon knows exactly what to do with your books and where to put them and who to send them to and how to sell them. And so it doesn't confuse their algorithm. So at any point in time, if you're switching genres, then you're going to want to do that. Now, if they're kind of close, I know you guys do YA and sweet romance, and they're a little bit closer, I think you can still get away with using the same name. But when I was going from nonfiction to fiction, it was a completely different animal. So
that's good advice. I did not know that. So that is really good to know.
And I think for me, I think there's 2 ways Amazon can sell your book, and it kind of depends on your marketing strategy, but this is all hearsay. This is all my assumption. So this is the gospel according to Amy. But I always think like either Amazon will sell your book by like books. So like your focus on, I got to make sure that my also bots are clean, and that there are other, like for me, it'd be YA romances, contemporary YA romances. Or you sell by your name. So like my focus would more be on people who have read Anne Marie Meyer and liked it and will pick up pretty much any book by Anne Marie Meyer. Would you feel like that's kind of similar, or?
Yeah, that definitely does play a part in it.
Okay.
Yeah, that they see those, and they there's been a shift, I think, in readers. They've gone from following a genre, like kind of blindly following a genre, like I like romance, so therefore I like all romance, to I like this author, and therefore I like everything the author writes, but I may not like that other author in the genre. Mm-hmm. And so they're becoming very author loyal, whereas before it was genre loyal. It's been a shift. So,
well, and I'm sure you're probably seeing that because you have the Texas Titan romances where you're working, and that was when we were part of the Destined for Love romance. We were actually told, like, they're like, I don't feel like people so much follow the series as they do individual authors that they have known and loved and will continue to read those books. So people are picking it up, and maybe you guys are so well known in the I lovingly refer to you guys all as the grandmas of clean and wholesome romance. And my husband's like, "Will you stop calling them that?" I'm like, "But you are the pioneers. You paved the way for all of us to follow behind you." But like, maybe it's just that because you guys are all in a group, so maybe that your series does better just because they know as a collective group of authors that they're going to love everything you put out.
Yeah. It's funny because Cami will get emails from people that subscribe to her newsletter that will say, I read Lucy's book and there is a missing comma on this page. Can you please tell Lucy? And then she forwards it on to me, and I have a neighbor stop me and they'll be like, "Oh, you write with Taylor Hart. Well, I just read her book and she put this mention in there, and can you tell her that?" And I was like, "Sure." And then they'll say, "And I will check up with you tomorrow to make sure you did it." And I'll be like, "Great, that'll be fun." I want to make sure that I tell her and I make sure it's taken care of. And so I think a lot of our readers don't follow each of us individually, but they kind of know that we'll keep everyone, up to date on what's going on with the people in our group. So
yeah, as you get more well known and you get more well known in that group, then people will follow you as a group instead of individual. But you kind of have to build that brand first. And then people know, oh, I can associate them with these books. And then therefore, if I read those ones, I'll like other ones.
Yeah. Well, and it all started with the Snow Valley small town romance books that we wrote together. And then it's just branched out, and we've, more people have come into the group and some have left. And it's just this kind of fluid thing that happens. And but I think the core group is still there, and they're still all writing and still doing it. So I'm still loving every day. We all think we're like, I get up and I get to be an author today, and it's like great reason to get out of bed every morning.
I know. Love that.
That's great. Well, I had another question from the Facebook group. Nina would like to know if indie publishing can make it more difficult to be recognized by a traditional publisher. Is this true?
I'm not sure how they look at indie authors anymore, because I think what they would do is they would go in and look and see how successful you've been as an indie author. Before, it would be they would want to, if you'd been traditionally published, they would go and look at the success of your traditionally published books, and they would bring up BookScan and go through that. And if you didn't sell a lot of books, they may or may not consider you, even if they liked your manuscript. And I think now they would look at an indie author the same way and say, "Oh, well, you've written this and your books have done that well, and you're going, you're so far, you're here." And so I don't know that it would stop them from working with you. At this point, I think had it been 3 years ago, I could have said yes, it would have definitely been a detriment to you. But I think at this point, the whole writing, publishing community is kind of shifting, and the sands are changing underneath our feet, and we have to be able to grab onto those trends as they're moving. And I think traditional publishers are starting to grasp that there's this big giant dragon out there of readers who want to be fed, and that it's not taking as much away from them as they thought it was going to be. I think they probably saw it as a threat at first. And they looked down on it because they didn't think it was as professional, or, what was being put out wasn't at the same level. But now if you're an indie and you're not putting out something that's really well edited and proofread completely, then you're not going to be able to succeed. People will not continue to follow you. So,
yes, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, Tori would like to know if you prefer one type of publishing over another and why.
At this point in time, I prefer the indie publishing. I like being able to come up with my ideas. I have more ideas than I have time to write them all. I used to see conference schedules and they would say, how to come up with your next book idea. And I'm like, you take a walk down the street and there's 14. Like, I don't understand how you can't come up with a book idea. And then I took a class and it was really good. It was like watching the market and seeing all that. I'm like, oh, that's what this means. So, but no, I love being able to come up with new ideas. I love being able to come up with the series titles and talk to my cover designer and go through different pictures and say, I like this one, try that one, swap it out, and all of those kinds of things. I really enjoy putting together the whole entire package for a reader and presenting it and saying, and being excited about it. And this is what I've done. I have something to show for the last, 6 to 8 weeks of my life. And so it's kind of nice.
That's wonderful. All right. Do we have any questions from our YouTube channel? Judy?
Oh, I was going to say real quick, and I think, and I've never been traditionally published, but this is my assumption. Another gospel according to Amy. But I'm thinking as an indie author, you spend, because you talked about the relationship that you have with your traditional published people. But I think as an indie author, you have much more of that intimate relationship with your readers. Like I just ran I'm doing a $25 Amazon gift card because I just hit a certain number of subscribers and I'm really excited because I can't believe it. But so and it's really small. It's small potatoes compared to you guys, but it's good for me. And so I was like, tell me what my favorite book, or tell me your favorite book of mine. And I was having people respond back to me and tell me, and I was like, my head kept getting bigger and bigger. And I was like, I love this. I just want this. No Amazon, no Goodreads. I'm just going to stay in my email, in my bubble that everyone thinks my books are amazing. But I think, or I'll send out a newsletter and I get people who respond, like I put pictures of my daughter and I say, look how cute she is. And then they respond back, oh my gosh, she's so cute. My baby's 17 and da-da-da-da. So I feel like you have that kind of relationship with your reader.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way too?
Yeah, I do. It's possible to have that when you're traditionally published.
Okay.
You're still going to put out a newsletter. You're still going to do those kinds of things. You're still going to have a Facebook page where you interact with your readers and stuff like that. And so it is possible to still do that traditionally published and develop that kind of a relationship with people that's one-on-one. In fact, they encourage it.
Yeah.
They want you to be accessible.
Well, and I think, but indie, you really have to do it. You know what I mean? Like there's no other option. If you're not an accessible, approachable author, you might not do as well.
Right. Yeah. You have to be willing to put yourself out there because it's not just your book just doesn't go out, with a picture in the back on the author page. You have to be out there saying, hey, this book is great. And this is why, and you're going to love it. And, and this is, and I know authors with their newsletters that they will not put in anything personal. It's all business. They just send out the latest book or what they're working on. There's nothing personal involved. I like putting in personal stuff because I like to share what's going on. And a lot of what I'm doing translates into what I'm writing too. Like my kids play baseball, they rodeo. We have way too many hobbies, things like that. And so a lot of those get written into my series and they play a part in it. And so I want people to know, hey, this is a part of my life and that's why I'm writing it. And if it's part of your life too, let me know. Let's talk about it and let's share it. So that makes it a lot more fun to connect with them and see what they're doing. I get people sending me pictures of their rodeo princesses or, and I love it. I love every bit of it. It's fantastic.
So much fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Does anybody have any questions from the live feed or from the Facebook group?
Yeah, there are a couple on YouTube, and we kind of touched on one, but not fully. So I'm gonna read it anyway. So the first one is: do traditional publishers try to bar you from also indie publishing your work?
So what in my contracts, the clauses were very specific, and I was very careful about that, especially with my my fiction, because I knew that I wanted to write self-publish, and so the clause in there said that the second book in that series, they got first dibs on. And I have actually never written a second book for that series, so it wasn't a problem. With my cookbooks, the clause was I could not write a book that would compete directly with that book. And so I have 2 traditionally published slow cooker cookbooks and a couple dessert cookbooks, and a bacon lovers cookbook. And so I cannot go write another bacon cookbook or another slow cooker cookbook. And I was okay with that when I signed it. I didn't, I have no desire to self-publish a cookbook. And so that was fine. So those are the kind of things you can make sure, but you need to read those contracts very carefully. And, you can ask them to explain it to you, but it's better if you ask somebody who's a lawyer or who has some law training to explain to you exactly what that means, because they can put in there a next book clause, which is not just the next book in the series, but the very next book you write, they get first dibs on. And so if you write something and you're so excited to put it out there, then they would get first dibs on that. So you've just got to read them very carefully and say, and you can ask them to specify and say next book in the series instead of my next book and things like that. And I found that they're usually pretty good to work with. So.
Okay. That's good to know, because that's something that I'm worried about, because I'm I might want to try traditional publishing someday, but I want to still have freedom. So
yeah,
that is good to know.
One thing I should tell you that I did find out is that a lot of the older, I don't want to say older time, the great grandmas in romance they didn't have ebooks rights in all of their old manuscripts or all of their old contracts. And so all of a sudden they had 75 books they could e-publish on their own. And they were making, I cannot remember who it was. He said he called Amazon and said, I have the rights to all of these. Do you want to publish them for me? And Amazon was like, yeah, we'll take care of that. And so they did. They put out, I think it was 56 of his books, ebooks, just on Amazon, because he had the e-rights because they weren't in the contract. So, you never know what's going to happen in 15 years. If you traditionally publish, there may be a whole new way to put out a book that we haven't even heard of yet. And all of a sudden we'll all have rights to them and we'll be super excited. So,
yeah, that is cool. There was one other question. So, do you ever get traditional contracts that try to claim rights on technology not invented yet? He's asking this because he once worked for a traditional publisher that did.
Yeah, I have seen that come through. And I did sign one like that on a cookbook, because I could honestly, with my cookbooks, I cannot see myself saying, I want the rights back. I want to go try and publish those. I want to put them through. There's something. So that would be a time when I guess you could say genre would play a part in deciding to be traditional or non-traditional. So yeah, I did. And I signed that one. And I thought, if you can come up with a new technology, more power to you. I'm okay with that. If you've got the way to do it, I'm all right with it, because it's one more way for you to sell my book, and then therefore it's one more way for me to find an audience. So I was all right with it.
Cool. And Julia K just barely asked us a question. She says, "What's your number one piece of advice?" So you're right on the spot right there.
Oh, how many? My number one piece of advice would be to think of things like, why not me? I started indie publishing because I went to a class for a woman who was indie publishing, and she was making a whole lot of money, and her books were great. They were fantastic. They were beautiful. And I thought, why can't I do that too? What is holding me back? Why not me? And so then I jumped in with both feet and went for it. And so I would just say, always look at something as an opportunity and say, why not me? Why can't I succeed at that? And I don't think that there's any barrier that can come up that you can think of that you can't overcome. So I would say go for it.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's awesome.
That's great advice. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, why not me? Okay.
It will be me. Now we're going to change it to when it is me.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Can I ask a couple of indie publishing questions?
Sure.
So you guys, you as a team, you guys put out a lot of books. How do you keep your newsletter engaged and not overwhelmed with how many you're sending? Because I'm finding the more books I put out, the more newsletter swaps I'm doing, and then the more I'm sending newsletters to my people. So I want to figure out how to keep them engaged while keeping this as a tool in my book releases.
Yeah. So so by you guys, I'm going to just drop some names here and say that you're talking about Taylor Hart, Cami Checkett, Jeanette Lewis, Cindy Rowland Anderson, Jennifer Youngblood, and I'm trying to think if I left anybody out, please forgive me.
They'll come on the show and they will verbally tisk you.
I'm sorry. Just realized that I'm like nervous while I'm on here. So
you did great.
So anyway, and we do a lot of newsletter swaps with each other, and we have talked about how it can become a problem to but to be constantly featuring a different author and have enough space. I will put out a newsletter every Tuesday and Thursday if I have information and news. I don't send one if I don't have anything to tell them, if there's not some new release or I'm not giving them something. I figure my readers and my subscribers to my newsletter they want to read. I'm trying to think what the percentage is. I think at 75% of them subscribe to the Kindle Lending Library. And to me, when somebody subscribes to that library, it's because they are devouring books. Like they're reading way more books than they want to pay for. So they're on the library so that they can get all of these books and just, keep reading and keep reading. And so my thought is, well, I'm giving them something they want. They want a book to read. So I'm saying, hey, here's the book to read. And here's, something to go with it. But a lot of times what I'll do is throw in something like a recipe that I had that week that I really enjoyed or that I tried, or I'll give them, sometimes I find dumb like life hacks and I'll tell them, hey, this week, this worked for me. And sometimes it's just an uplifting thought like, this really got me through the week. Let me tell you what it got me through. And it was I think the last one I did was the win this hour moment, which I had heard at a sports conference that I had to go to for one of my kids. And it was the idea that every hour is a chance to win that hour. And so whatever you're doing for that hour, win it. So it was a great motivator for me. I would sit down to write and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to do 2 sprints this hour and I'm going to win it. I am totally going to kill this hour. And I would just cram in those words as fast as I could. And then when the hour was over, I'd be like, okay, now I am chauffeur and I am totally going to kill it. And I would
clean my bathroom and I'm going to kill it.
And I'm going to win this hour and I'm going to win the dishes today. And the laundry monster will not take over. And whatever it is for that hour. And I shared that. And I can't even tell you how many emails I got in response of people who were like, that is exactly what I needed to hear today. And so I'm, trying to put out things in the newsletter on my personal one that are, helpful to people in some way. I want it to be or have something in it of value for them. And even, whatever it happens to be, whether it's a new book or it's this thought that is just really helpful or it's a recipe. So I own Gelato Books, and it's a publishing company that specializes in sweet.
You own Gelato Books?
I do own Gelato Books.
You own Gelato Books. Oh, interesting.
We did the Country Brides and Cowboy Boots series, the, Destination Billionaire.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what other, and then, I've done a few like the Unlikely Cowgirls with Kimberly Cray and stuff like that.
Heart Channel thing.
Yeah, the My Heart Channel was our one that just ended, and then we'll pick up again at Christmas. And we've got, so the new one we're doing for the summer is vintage romances, and they're contemporary retellings of Jane Austen books, or You've Got Mail, or Cinderella stories, or, whatever. And so for the newsletters for those, we've developed ice cream flavors, vintage ice cream flavors to go with each book. So the first one that went out was Kayaks and Kisses, and the ice cream flavor is s'mores. And so, we're going to put those out in the newsletters, share them with our readers, and we're just trying to give them a little something.
Do you get ice cream by being your subscriber?
Do I what?
Do you give ice cream to the people who are your subscribers?
Just the ice cream recipes. They have to make their own ice cream.
I mean, you won't send it to me. I don't know if I'm going to subscribe.
I've not figured out how to ship ice cream. There's a lot I can do, but shipping ice cream is a little on the iffy side. But yeah, that's definitely one that's been, so I just try and give them something more. I want them to open my newsletter and say, my day was made better because I opened this.
Right. Do you get unsubscribers every time? I think that's the panic people get. They're like, if I send too many emails, I keep getting unsubscribers.
I do, but I get just as many, if not more, new subscribers.
Okay.
There's no, and I think a lot of the newsletter, a lot of the names that I built up, I did some of those promotions that you do, you buy your way in and everybody is a sweet romance author and they all promote it. And then, the winners get a Kindle Fire and one copy of each of the books or something like that. And I did several of those, and my newsletter, really blew up, but at the same time, the engagement went down. Mm-hmm. And so when I get unsubscribers, I don't take it personal because I think it's from those ones that I paid for. And I think they're just, they wanted the freebies and they wanted the entrance for the Kindle, and they weren't really interested in what I had to offer.
Right. So do you have a reader magnet that you get? Okay.
Yeah, I have a reader magnet. I have a novel that I wrote. It was a adventure. It's called Undercover Engagement, and it's an adventure romance. The guy is an undercover operative, and he's engaged. And on the eve of their announcing their engagement to her family, she finds out they get attacked, basically. And
that's a big way of finding out.
And then they go to Vegas.
Wow.
And this was the whole point, is I wanted to do a Vegas book where they get married, and but they don't know they got married. So they end up entering a contest entering to help with a Guinness Book of World Records. And it's the most couples married by Elvis impersonators in an hour. And so they got married by an Elvis impersonator, and they didn't realize that that's what's happening because they're trying to avoid the bad guys while they're, going through it. They come out and they have the marriage license. And they're like, so
that's fabulous. Did you go to Las Vegas to do your research?
Not that time. I've been to Vegas plenty of times. I live in Utah and it's right there. So
oh, okay. Yeah. I need to start going on to places to research for my book.
I love it. I went to Santa Barbara and did a whole bunch of research there, which was just beautiful and amazing. I really want to go to Hershey, Pennsylvania, just because it's like the whole town smells like chocolate. And I think, how would you not want to go there?
You should do a writing retreat in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So, go ahead.
There was a question that kind of went along with the newsletter thing. Mm-hmm. Someone asked, what is the best way to build a newsletter subscription list? Like, what's the number one way you would suggest?
I would suggest putting it in the front and the back of your book. That is the best way, because and then you can add it like on a Facebook, just a post as your, every once in a while, I'll do a Facebook post and say, if you want this free book, sign up for my newsletter. Just throw it out there every other week or so, and so it doesn't become too trite. But it's mostly, I want people who want to read my books to sign up. So if you have 600 people and 500 of them are buying your book, you've got an amazing newsletter list. If you have 6,000 people and you have 500 people buying your book, you don't have as great of a list. So it's not so much the quantity of subscribers as it is I don't want to say quality because they're all wonderful people, but the
engagement.
The engagement. Thank you. That's a good one. The engagement that you get from them. And then check your email that it comes through, and answer when people answer your newsletter. When they send you something as a reply, answer them back and take that time to do that, because I think that's a great way to just show people that you're just excited that they're reading what you're putting out.
Well, writing is so intimate too, and I think that they bond with the character, and then in turn bond with you. The same reason that I am like, oh my gosh, Chris Hemsworth, because I bonded with Thor, therefore I'm bonded to Chris Hemsworth. That sort of mentality of, and then you meet them in real life and you're like, okay, you're nothing like that person. But you know what I mean? You have that connection that you have to those people.
Right. But I think Chris is like hilarious in person, I've heard. And plus he's got a wife and beautiful children and he's totally a family guy. So really, I don't know how you could say that's not going to be as good in person. But
well, we have a lady in the Writing Gals who lives in Australia. And I asked her if she knows him. And she's like, yeah, I've seen him all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, writing retreat at your house because we're all going to stalk Chris Hemsworth. Figure out where he is.
Let me tell you, I am on that, and I have Black Ops like gear. Well, I'll bring it, and
there
I don't know if I can get it through security, but I'll try.
I'm sure you can buy it in Australia.
Oh, that's true.
So there was one more question on the Facebook page, and this is more about craft. She says, what are the steps that you use to plot a novel, and do you use the 3 acts, hero's journey, write details about your character? She's trying to complete her first draft, and any information would be greatly appreciated.
Okay. So I actually write my first drafts out by hand, and it is such a rough sketch of the story that, I mean, I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't, how do you write like 30,000 words out by hand and then go in and type it? But really a lot of it and my very best dialogue comes when I sketch by hand. And I have a beat sheet that I have developed for my books that I use. And so I just make sure I hit those beats. So if she's looking for, you could start with Save the Cat if you want to look at the beats, which is a great one for just helping you find your outline. A lot of times I'll do brainstorming sessions with authors and we'll talk about what it is they need to get to their resolution, because their resolution basically, and this may or may not be your problem, but you want to have everybody's problem come to a head at the climax. And so if you have a guy who is a commitment phobe and you have a girl who is worried about giant spiders, the climax is he's going to have to commit to killing the spider for her or whatever, or she's going to have to kill the spider in order to get him to commit, whatever it is. Like, that's all got to come together in the climax so that it can, wrap everything up. And so a lot of times people have a hard time pulling all of those together. So, but what I do is I write it out by hand in a old composition notebook. And it's just the basics. And then I'll go in and as I'm typing, I'll see, okay, I need another scene here because I need to change his motivation. So I've got to have a scene that changes his motivation to get him from A to B. And so I'll add that scene in and then type it all out on that. And then I go through and do my giant read through. And I try and do that read through within 2 to 3 days so that I have everything fresh in my mind from the beginning to the end, and I can tie up all those loose ends. And so that if I have a funny joke between the couples at the beginning, I can refer to it again later. A lot of times I forget those. They kind of go by the wayside as I am in the trenches writing. And so they come back when I'm doing that edit. Does that help? I hope that helps.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. How many words are your books normally? Because you said 72,000 at the beginning, and I was like, wow, that's a Judy book. Judy's our not long-winded, but she's our long writer.
Long words.
They're all good words. They just a lot.
Yeah.
No.
It's young adult.
So usually with my billionaire marriage brokers, there's a whole nother level of, so you have your A story and your B story, and then they will usually have a C story. And that's why it's so long. It's because in this one, I've got his problems, her problems, and then she also has a sister and a niece that there are problems with. And so I have to do all of those. And so that C story takes another 20,000 words or 30. Usually I'm between 40 and 50,000 words for a novel. I have done ones when we were doing the Echo Ridge series, they were supposed to be about 25,000. And so it was just the A story. It was only the romance. And usually it was from one person's perspective instead of both, because if I'm going to add the guy in, he's another, he gets a mirror of whatever she got. So if she got 30,000 words, he gets 30,000 words. And so,
right.
Equal opportunity writing, I guess.
Yeah.
And then just one more question. This is just for my knowledge. When you release, how are you, like, what's your release strategy?
Okay, I have been doing a slow release for like the last 5 years. So I will upload a week to 2 weeks before my release date. I will put all of my AMS ads in line, and then I will line up my swaps so that they go for 1 to even 2 or 3 weeks. I'll have people putting it in their newsletter or blogging about it or whatever for 3 weeks after. And so that's been my strategy for a long time.
Do you release at $2.99?
I do. I release at $2.99. And so this was my, I have a marketing background. And so one thing that was drilled into us was perception of value. And so, you know, if you don't value your own book at a certain price level, then you can expect readers to value it at that level. And so I have always released at $2.99. Even when I've done smaller books that are 25,000 or whatever, I'll put them out at $2.99. But I have just recently, and I've rarely ever discounted my books to 99 cents. I will sometimes for like a Mother's Day sale or whatever that I'm doing with somebody, but I rarely do. But I'm thinking of changing that and doing some different marketing ideas lately and seeing what I can do with my backlist. And the reason I didn't want to do it before is because I didn't feel like I had enough books to play with. I needed every single book to be making a certain amount of money per month. And so I didn't dare discount because I didn't think I would be able to sell 5 times more if I discounted. But now that I have a bigger backlist, I feel like I can play with it a little more and I have some wiggle room. And so I think I'll be trying some things out in marketing and price changes, and I'll be trying some different marketing sites and seeing what I can do with those. So it's kind of fun. It's exciting to be able to say, okay, I can play with this now. Whereas before I was just, you know, like constantly watching it and hoping it stayed and making sure it maintained. So,
but it's also that double-edged sword because you're like, yes, I've completed the series and it's done. Mm-hmm. But that means my next, because I've noticed with my new series I've got coming out, it doesn't really boost my previous series. And so it's just kind of like, oh, now that's just going farther and farther down no matter how hard I'm working. So you kind of have to find ways to push them back up.
Yeah.
So they're being seen.
And I think doing sales is a good way to do that. Sales are a very traditional form of marketing. Mm-hmm. Stores do them all the time. You know, you get your ads for the JCPenney, whatever. And so they are, but you know, when I would look at what JCPenney or whoever, Old Navy or whatever were offering, they had, you know, 45 shirts to choose from, and they would put one on sale to get you to come into the store. And then you would go into the store and you might buy the one on sale, and then you'd be like, oh, but that's really cute too. And so you'd buy the one that's at full price. And so, but I didn't have enough to say, come into my store because I've got an offering here of a whole bunch that I can put this one on sale and they come into my store and then buy these books as well. So, but now that I feel like I have a selection, a little bit of a bookshelf built up and a backlist, then now I feel like I can do that. And I'm excited to offer that to my readers because I think it's a great way to show them that you appreciate that they've been hanging with you for a while. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited about that.
That perception is so true because like I go to Hobby Lobby and I'm like, everything is 50% off. I can buy everything. And then I went to a store, they didn't have everything 50% off. And they might have been the same prices as Hobby Lobby on discount. But I was like, this is not 50% off. I am not buying that. I'm going to go to Hobby Lobby and buy a 50% off. So they know Hobby Lobby knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, and you know, and I was actually going to ask Victorine because I know that she does put hers down. And do you also do freebies? Is that something that you do as well?
Yes, I definitely. I've done both, releasing at regular price and releasing at 99 cents. And I'm still kind of in my experimental mode right now, experimenting with it. But for me, I have found that I make more money releasing at 99 cents and trying to get higher in visibility to get more pages read, because I make the same amount in pages read at a 99-cent book as I do for a $2.99 book. But I see more people see it if it's 99 cents, and gets more visibility. So that's what I'm playing around with right now. But I also do free days, and I'll advertise that in the normal places. If I can't get a BookBub ad, then I'll do Free Booksy and ENT and stuff like that. And I do find that boosts that rank up enough, and it gives me enough of a boost that it helps all the other books and helps me stay visible and not just sink down in the ranks so that I'm not visible anymore.
Yeah, I was going to ask you all too. Have you noticed your release rank when you very first put out a book? Have you noticed that it's dropping? So the more books you put out, the lower your release rank is right out of the box. Have you noticed that yet?
I have not noticed that yet.
Okay, so because I have put out, with Gelato, I put out sometimes brand new authors, and they'll be placed at 300,652. And then some of the newer authors that I work with, they will be placed at, say, 80,000, like the day they release, before anybody buys a book, just when it comes out, right there. And I think it's based upon their author ranking, which improves as the more books they release, the higher they get in the rankings, and so forth and so on. And so I think it's one of those things where the more success you have, the more it feeds your success type of deal. So
I would say that's probably true. I've noticed that I start out, when I publish, the next morning I wake up, my book's 25,000 in the store at that moment. But I always just figured it was because I have the smart URL in the back of my other books that are doing well. And so then I can switch that over. And so now people who have finished that book are reading into the other one. But I didn't know it had to do with the author ranking.
Yeah. And you're like I said, and the more success you have as an author, the higher that'll be. And so it's just kind of fun to watch that grow and see it happen for other people. It's really exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, I definitely agree. My first marriage book got to 215 in the store. Not at $2.99. It would be amazing if it got to 215 at $2.99. But it's pretty awesome. I couldn't have imagined in August when I released my first book that I would ever have gotten that high in a rank. So yeah, definitely fun.
Well, and with the Titans, we kind of looked at things, and we figured, because we have had some of the books break the 100s and get into the like 70s and the 89s and things like that at 99 cents. And they did make more money than they would have if they were higher in the rankings at that $2.99. And we compare, we put, some of us put them out at $2.99 and some of us put it out at 99 cents, and we compared and stuff. And so dropping the price down to 99 cents really did help them sell enough that they made more money, and they got up that much higher in the rankings. So it's pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, do you have one more question, Judy?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
So like with that, I noticed that one of Cammie's books recently, like she released it like regular price and then took it down to 99 cents for a day. Mm-hmm. Is that something that they've found to be helpful then, or just
she probably released it at 99 cents or at $2.99, and it was, and I don't know, had she announced it yet? Had she announced the release? Okay, so she's just putting it up at $2.99 so she can get her ads and everything settled, and then the 99-cent day would be release day, and that's the day that we all put it out in our newsletters and everything, and told Facebook, and we advertise it as it's 99 cents today only. Mm-hmm. And usually what we'll do, if we're going to do 99 cents, we'll do it for just 1 or 2 days, and so that it creates a sense of urgency for people to pick it up before that sale price goes away. And then we get all the readers. People are buying then and reading then even and borrowing, and then it just shoots it right up in the ranking.
So when you switch it, go ahead, Judy.
So is that something because you've said you don't usually discount them. So is that something you think you would do?
I haven't done it yet, and I've contemplated. I have to say I'm seriously contemplating doing it. I don't know which book. It might be my next Texas Titans. I just haven't thought that far ahead yet, because that would probably be the best one to try it on. To see how it works with having had other books in the series at that same price. So
the reason why we keep ours at 99 cents, we normally do it for the first 30 days, is because I tried I guess I don't know. I haven't compared, but I felt like my rank dropped faster once I changed it to $2.99 instead of keeping it at 99 cents, because those extra 10, 15, 20 buys that people pick up for 99 cents help keep you more visible. Do you feel like that happens? There's a big drop off, or does it go faster down?
Like if I put it at $2.99, it depends on how good I am at spacing out the newsletter releases from other people, and how much marketing I'm putting into it 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later versus there have been some, life is crazy sometimes, and I put a book out and I announce it to my newsletter, and then I'm like, that's it, that's all I can do. Sorry. At least the people who are following me know that it's there, and then Amazon will send out their announcement to my followers, and there's always a boost on that day. So no, because I've done the slow release, I've seen that it's sticky and they'll stay for a couple of weeks. Usually I can get it to stay a month under the 2000s if I'm, doing a really good job at what I'm supposed to be doing. So, but yeah, I haven't seen a big drop because of the $2.99. I'm guessing what's happening is people had seen it at 99 cents and then they were like, oh, now it's $2.99, maybe I won't. And so they kind of second guess, or they think maybe it'll go back to 99 cents. I'll wait a week and see what happens.
Okay.
But once they learn you as an author and they learn that it's not going to go back to 99 cents, then they would start buying at the $2.99. So it just takes them becoming more familiar.
And how often are you putting out books?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at my list, like to see what I've done. Every 4 to 6 weeks.
And that's been since 2015?
Yes, but I can honestly say that there are times, I think one of those years I only wrote 8 books. And then, another year I think I'd written 15. And so there are, it just varies on what's happening and how fast I can get them done.
So because you write them out by hand first. So how many hours do you have to work a day to be able to put out books so quickly? Because I'm like, I am so much slower than that, and I use a computer, and I was like,
no, the best part about outlining by hand is that I can just throw it in my purse and take it with me. So if I'm at the ball field and my kids are warming up and I have 15 minutes and I can sit there, I am outlining a book. And if I'm, waiting my turn at parent-teacher conferences, I'm outlining a book. And so it's possible to take it with me wherever I go. And I can be writing one book and outlining another, because they're completely, being able to do one on paper and one on the computer separates the parts in my brain so that I can have 2 stories going at the same time and they don't get confused or overlapped, which is crazy when I think about it. But so that's why that's one of the biggest reasons why I do it by hand, is because I can take it anywhere and I can do it wherever I'm at. So yeah, that's how I can make that happen. So, and it's all about finding those little minutes and then sprinting. So my daily goal is 4,000 words a day. And that takes me between 3 and maybe 6 sprints. So what is that, like 3 hours a day of actual writing at the computer at the most? And then I can do it. But that took a lot of training. I did some writing for SEO articles, which you are paid like 0.5 cents per word. And that taught me to write really fast and type really, really fast, because the faster I was writing, the more I was getting paid. And so that was like my training ground for being able to write really quickly. But you can train yourself to do it on your own book. The reason I can write so fast is because I have that outline. It's because I know what's coming next. I don't have to sit and think, okay, what's going to happen next? Or, and I work up a Bible before I start anything that has hair color, eye color, all that kind of stuff. And so I can just flip a page and be like, oh yeah, what color are her eyes? Oh, they're blue, and so I don't have to continually be thinking of that. It's all right there. I make it as easy as possible for me to sit down and write at the computer.
Okay. So how many words would you say your outlines are? Because I have outlined in a notebook, and I like that, but mine isn't close to book size by the time I'm done.
No, not at all. It's maybe 5 to 10,000 words tops. Okay. And a lot of it isn't even full sentences. It's at the barn, he's got horse. It's not it's just these basic pictures of things, these very teeny tiny, that usually the dialogue, the back and forth, the flirting and things that I can write out really fast. And I'm just doing dashes and then writing the next line. getting the gist of it, and then I can add all the he winked suggestively and stuff like that into it later. So that as I'm typing.
That's very similar to what I do then. So that's good. Maybe I can be as fast as you someday.
Yay. All right. Did anybody have any last questions for Christina?
And there aren't any more on the YouTube.
All right. Well, I think we better wrap up. Thank you so much, Christina, for being on the show with us. We really enjoyed this. Where can people find you? Do you have a website?
I do. It is Lucy McConnell, author Lucy McConnell at Weebly.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, and then of course Amazon, my author page on Amazon. And it's under Lucy McConnell, like all my romance and stuff. So
fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. And I should have mentioned that Michelle is at Girls Camp this week. And so she is without internet and in a tent and having lots of fun with the girls at Girls Camp. So we're missing her, but we'll have her back next week. And next week is June 14th, and we will be doing another question and answer session. So join us on our Facebook page and ask some questions of what you want answered from the Writing Gals, and we will answer your questions, and we will see you next week.
All right. Thanks for staying up late.